Hi, my name's Vince Sheehan, and today I'd like to talk about Doctor Who, The Keys of Marinus, which is the fifth story in the first ever season of the classic series Doctor Who. William Hartnell's the Doctor, and just like to have a chat about the kind of structure of this story and what it's about. So the Doctor's arrives at this planet, and there's this guy there called Arbitan who wants the keys back for this consciousness, this machine he has, and this machine kind of keeps order on the planet of Marinus. And he kind of makes the Doctor and his companions search for these keys so that the planet can be saved from the Vords, who are these guys who kind of sail across a sea of acid to get to this island where the consciousness is in these wetsuits, and they want to take over and presumably rule Marinus. So the Doctor and his companions somewhat reluctantly go off and search for these keys, and they're kind of scattered throughout Marinus. And first of all, they go to this place which looks wonderful. I think it's called Morpheton. It looks wonderful. It's really luxurious. There's a lovely set here. It's kind of almost surreal with these statues, and it kind of looks like they're in a lap of luxury here, in a kind of ancient Greek or Roman sense. And but actually they're under an illusion. Actually the place is like just a terribly dirty and filthy place of squalor, and Barbara realises this, and she's kind of imprisoned, but eventually they get the key, and everything's good. And then they end up in a jungle looking for the second key with Sabitha, this girl they picked up from Morpheton, who's Arbitan's daughter, and what turns out to be her boyfriend. And they're in this deadly jungle full of these booby traps and things, these kind of ruined temples, etc. Quite atmospheric. Some of the effects are a bit cheap, as you'd imagine, but there we go. And they find the second key around this jungle area. And then they're off to the frozen wastes of this other part of Marinus, where they find this guy called Vaza, who is this kind of scheming, duplicitous hunter or kind of fur trapper, something like that. And he kind of pretends to kind of assist them, but really he wants them killed. But eventually they, over this bridge, this rope bridge, they find the next key in a block of ice. And then we're into the final place, which I think is called Millennius, a city. And Ian is framed for the murder of some guy. And it turns into a bit of a courtroom drama here, the story. The Doctor's defending Ian. And eventually they find the key, it's in the murder weapon, and they go off back to the original island, and they manage to destroy the consciousness because they give the Vord a fake key, which Ian found earlier, and I think he found it in the jungle, and that kind of blows up the consciousness with the Vords with it, and the Doctor and his companions are free to go on their way. So it's quite a neat and tidy story, really. It's 6 parts, but like some of the other early stories, it doesn't feel particularly like 6 parts, because they're kind of, it's a series of mini adventures. It's a bit like The Key to Time, I guess, the Tom Baker serial. There's kind of a different adventure every episode, and that kind of makes the story tick along. It's written by Terry Nation as well, of course, who wrote The Daleks, the big hit of that series. Some of the themes in this story include the idea of the quest, searching for something to kind of maintain law and order and peace in the cosmos. There's the idea of deadly plants. There's the idea of kind of snow and ice, of being falsely accused, as in Ian's case. Of course, ultimately the fight against evil represented by the Vords. The idea of illusions, things aren't quite what they seem, particularly in the first, when they're looking for the first key in Amphiton. And there's parts of the story I really like. I mean, I love there's like a really classic kind of image of brains in jars in the, I think it's in the first or second episode, you know, really kind of a real staple of B-movie kind of science fiction. I really like that. And then I really like the set in that, you know, in Amphiton, where there's all the everything looks fantastic and luxurious. There's something quite striking about the set design there. You can tell that they were short of money, that's for sure, particularly in the jungle where you get these kind of, I think at one point Susan or Barbara, one of them, I think it's Susan, goes bananas because this tiny little green tendril rather, wraps around the ankle and she goes completely wild over it. But, you know, overall it's quite an enjoyable story. You're perhaps left wondering why what this consciousness was really about in the first place, why these keys were so necessary. That's never really explained, I don't think. It's an entertaining story, and I'll just include just a very simple slideshow with the structure and some of the themes. Thanks for watching. Bye.